Now, for those of you that are listening to the show currently, and for those of you that will be downloading the show, which will be soon, hopefully. I haven't done a show in about a month and a half, so basically I was just paying for the show and not doing anything with it except having people downloading it and putting advertising on it. Anyways, so what is going on currently? Well, a lot has happened in this past week and a half. I'm not going to say everything what has happened, but a lot of shit has happened. But I'll throw in a couple details. Sorry, forgive me, I just noticed that my window at my motel is slightly broken and slightly put together with electrical tape. I don't know why somebody would do that, but I don't know. Anywho, so it all started on Sunday of last week, on February 10th, 2020. I cracked my head at work, and when I cracked my head at work, I woke up in the hospital, and it's weird too, because now people look at me funny. People look at me, and now I get this awkward feeling that people are gonna treat me badly, or now people are thinking I'm like way older than I am, and it's trippy. And sorry for going on about it. It's stupid, shouldn't have happened, and I wish I could have just gone back to work. It's stupid. I wish I could have stayed in Washington. I wish I could have just stayed where I was, but I had to go because where I was staying, I was getting beat up. I was also getting threatened to be put out on the street as well, and I wasn't going to have any of this shit. And forgive me for cussing in this podcast that I own, but I feel like I can say whatever the fuck I want because of the freedom of speech, and I'm in America and I have a voice. Anywho, I tried to go back to work, and I called numerous times to get my stuff, to get my bike even, and I couldn't even get my bike. They put my bike in a place that I didn't even have my bike, so they moved my bike. They physically moved my motorcycle to another location. So in Washington State, you have to have a motorcycle endorsement, and most states, or most U.S. states, you have to have an endorsement to ride a motorcycle over 125 cc's. And since my bike is a pretty big bike, it's a 750, I've ridden bigger bikes. I've had Harleys, I've had 1800 cc's, but those were a little bit bigger bikes. Too big for me, because I've crashed fucking 3 of them. But I've yet to destroy this bike. So them not knowing how to move my bike, it could have been in first gear, could have been in second gear, They could have just pushed it, not put it in neutral, and it was frustrating because I had the key and they moved it. So all this time I was in the hospital because I couldn't leave. I had a pretty bad head injury, and I was thinking, how am I going to get my bike out of that place? The times that I was calling them, like, hey, like, am I going to get my job back? Why are you removing me from the schedule? Like, I'm still fit to work. I have a note from the doctors, like, they're releasing me. Like, why are you taking me off the schedule? So I had to leave the hospital. I had to make up an excuse to physically leave the hospital and get my bike. That's my main asset, and I don't know what was going to happen to it, especially with people that don't know how to ride a motorcycle and don't have endorsements and so on. So I got my stuff, got my bike. The next day I called the boss. I'm like, hey, am I still going to be working here? They told me that they're firing me because I wasn't fit for their what do you call it? What I applied for. So the job that I applied for was to stock shelves, cook food, make food, and cashier, and go to Costco for them and shop for them. No big deal to not go to Costco for them anymore because other people were doing it for them. They told me that they can rearrange my schedule, and which they were already doing. They were having me work graveyards, they were having me work days, they were having me work nights, and it was just constant rearranging of my schedule, and I wasn't getting any sleep, and it was just constant staying up, and constant energy drinks, and I was just getting exhausted, and they didn't give a shit. They didn't care. And it was terrible. And I told them, like, how can an insurance company deny any of this? I was paying insurance. I physically had my pay stubs paying into insurance. I was also told that I should probably file an L&I claim. I have yet to do that. I'm thinking about, once I get to the location in California tomorrow, going to a hospital just so I can get my face checked out, because I still have a pretty big bump on my head, and filing an L&I claim against the employer that let me go because I had to leave the state. I had to go. There was nowhere else for me to go. So forgive this a little delay in talking. I have to go back inside my room. So with this delay, I forgive. Sorry, I had to go back in my room because a bunch of people were coming up to the office, and my room's right above the office. I kind of wanted to keep the flow going on my talking, and people kind of give me anxiety, especially new people. New people that I don't know give me anxiety, and it doesn't totally freak me out. I'm used to talking to strangers. I'm used to just, talking like how I am right now, and just explaining things. Last week, I decided on the 14th, which was Valentine's Day, to just pack my shit and just go for it. I packed up my camping gear, packed up my clothes, my duffel bag, and just twined up my motorcycle and just left. Made it to Oregon. Crappy part was I made it to Oregon. It was about 9 o'clock at night. I found a camping spot, but it was pouring down rain, and it was pretty shitty setting up a tent. No issues though. It did rain. As I said, it was pouring down rain as I was setting it up, but I managed to stay dry because I do have some rain gear and some rain covers that kept the tent pretty dry, except a few spots that got pretty soaking wet. And I did get wet in the morning, but I did find some dry spots, and I just moved over and I was fine. And I also just threw on another rain cover, and I was pretty well dry. I was pretty well warm. The next day, I slept in a motel because I felt like I deserved it. I felt like after all the bullshit that I went through, I needed it. And tonight as well, I felt like I needed it as well, and so forth. I'm hoping once I get down to Redding, Cali, I did apply for quite a few jobs. I'm still gonna apply for quite a few jobs tonight. Not the type of person to panhandle. I hate people that panhandle because there's numerous fucking apps out there. You can build a resume and you can just apply, and employers see that shit and they look at that shit and they will send you messages if they like your resume and if they like your job history. Like, if you have a good resume, you know how to pitch a job history, you will get a good, decent job. Well, I wouldn't say a good, decent job because the last job that I had, obviously, they fired me for fucking just cracking my head and falling, and they didn't give a shit. They obviously found a way around the system to get around it. I still don't understand this, how an employer can do that. They said they're tribal and they're different from the state, but they're living in America. Doesn't matter if you're tribal, doesn't matter if you're whatever. If you're paying taxes and you are physically in America, you're not your own country. You are still have to abide by federal laws. And I don't understand this. I hope their boss, who claims that she is a good person, does good for people. Obviously, she does not. The person that got interviewed with me was African American. I wish I got his number. I wish I got his name fully, but he was only there for a couple of days before he either got fired or he quit. But I don't understand that part because there was no other African Americans working there, and it was just all white people, and it was mainly just women working there. Literally, out of the 19 people working there, it was about 17 women and only 2 men. And out of the 2 men, I was one of them. Then they hired another dude, and then I hit my head. And the other dude that was working there, his name was Kevin, but he was married to the boss. So this was a whole trippy situation. So I was scared to even pursue the situation because I didn't know if I was gonna get hurt or get sued or get some crazy weird thing on my pay stub, because she told me that anytime that she gives out clothing to an employee, that she will charge them if they get fired. So I was scared that the clothing that she was giving me, even though the clothing never fit, so I could never wear them, she was going to charge me for all of them. I ended up giving, or just leaving them there, I think, because I don't even know where they are, because I'm not in Washington anymore. I just thought I was going to just be charged for all of them, and so forth. The next thing too, as well, I wanted to say, I just didn't want to get hurt after the whole hospital situation, because I was also being threatened to be kicked out of the house that I was staying at, and being threatened to be beat up, or also I was having bad reactions to the multiple drugs that the hospital was giving me. I was seeing things. I wasn't there. And when I did come to was the day they gave me the release. They gave me the release, letting me go. I looked back on my notes from my chart. I don't know if you guys ever been to a hospital or a multi-care or just a regular, just general practitioner. You'll have this like my chart that tells you exactly what was done to you all of it was gone on my side. And I would always check these things every time I'd leave the hospital or every time I'd go get myself checked out. I would always check these things. The 1st of February, I crashed a motorcycle, fortunately. Maybe not the very first of motorcycle. Sorry. Maybe not the very 1st of February, but I left the hospital on the 1st of February, and that's all there was on the chart. And when I went back to pick up some of my things that accidentally got left at the hospital, they had me sign for paperwork dated back from the 1st of February instead of the 10th through the 12th of February. And I'm sorry if I'm skipping through some of the storyline. I'm trying to keep it straightforward, but it's kind of hard at the moment because I'm trying to do this all through my head, and I don't have the whole storyline written down at the moment. So if I'm repeating myself, forgive me. It's not my intention. And I thought that was some pretty trippy shit. I wasn't there the very 1st of February at the time, because when I cracked my head on the 10th, and I was released on the 12th. And none of that paperwork was there. I did, while I was at the hospital, this brain of mine was smart. Even though they were doping me up with a bunch of drugs, this brain of mine was smart. I had my phone with me. I had my phone. I took pictures. I took videos of what was going on. I took a picture of my release. And the note stated that I was to be released on the 12th of February. It could be the 13th. I don't have my note in front of me at the moment. I could look it up. Just give me 1 second. There's a lot of pictures here. Just give me 1 second. Yeah, I was going to be released on 2/12/2020. But from the whole note, it said Kevin was admitted to Tacoma General Hospital from 2/10/2020 to 2/12/2020. He is medically cleared to return to work as of 2/12 or 2/13/2020. And when I went to go tell my boss this, she wouldn't have anything of this. And I thought she was I thought the employer was a great person, an awesome person. Turns out it was the opposite, and it scared the fuck out of me. So I left. I took my stuff and I left. when I first got employed, she told me that she had a lot of influence of all the tribal leaders, and she was also one of the tribal members, and that also scared the fuck out of me, because I know a lot of the tribal members and tribal leaders take advantage of Americans. I'm not saying Native American people are bad people at all. I love everybody. Everybody. Doesn't matter what color or what nationality anybody is. I love everybody. I know how many casinos that they keep building, and those little casinos that they have influence gamblers and continue to influence these gamblers. And again, I was scared. I was just really scared. I up and left. And I am sorry for repeating myself if I am. I'm also glad that I'm putting this out here, because a lot of times people go into dark, go into shadow about these things, but in reality is you shouldn't let employers take advantage of employees. That is bullshit. If you find yourself in a situation where your boss is taking advantage of you, report it or quit. If you can't get out, find another job. I don't care if you think you can't do it, do it. Save the money and go. If you don't have any kids, you're in a better situation than most people. Just pack up and go. If you do have kids, save enough money to just quit. Because don't let anybody take advantage of you. Don't let any employer take advantage of you, because that is bullshit. And fuck that shit. And they should be catering to you, because you're the one selling their product and putting their product on the shelf, and you're the one talking to the customers. You're the one catering to the customers. So fuck that shit and fuck them. Anyways, thank you for listening. Have a great night. And tune in to Spotify, tune in iHeartRadio, and Spreaker. And there's a bunch of other apps that I'm on as well. And always, thank you for listening. Have a great night.